Have you ever felt like you're carrying emotional weight that never seems to go away? Like no matter how hard you pray or think positive thoughts, it still sits heavy on your chest? In this episode, we'll talk about how to process your emotions all the way through so they stop living rent free in your body and you can finally breathe again. Mama, are you tired of meltdowns stealing the peace in your home? Welcome to Parenting Beyond Meltdowns. I'm Amanda, a Christian life coach and a mom of a strong-willed neurospicy teen. If you've tried everything from consequences, parenting books, crying out to the Father, and still feel like you're failing, you're not alone. Inside this podcast, we'll explore how faith, emotional regulation, and connection work together so that you can parent from a place of peace, even in the hardest moments. You don't have to hold it all together here. This is a safe space to lay it all down. Welcome. If you'd like me to read your review on the podcast, head over to Apple Podcasts, scroll to the bottom where it says episodes, and you'll see the words ratings and reviews. There you can leave a 5-star review and then click the button write review and leave your very own review that I'll read on the podcast later. Thanks for leaving a review, Mama. It blesses me so much and everybody else who reads it. Over the last couple of episodes, we've explored how to first become aware of what you're thinking and feeling, and then allowing those emotions to exist without shame or judgment. Now we're taking it even further by learning how to process those emotions so they stop living rent-free in your body and start making space for peace, healing, and deeper connection with your child. Today, I'm inviting you to lighten your backpack and process some emotions. So what does it look like to sit with your emotions, to feel them all the way through? Remember that emotions are just energy. They won't hurt you. It's so important to process them so that you don't become emotionally stuck. When you have trapped emotions in your body, your life can end up feeling very stagnant, heavy, overwhelming, and exhausting. Did you know that the average emotion takes 90 seconds or less to process through our bodies when we allow them to? Think of it like this. If you're outside on a sunny day and a cloud passes over the sun, the cloud doesn't just stay there, it eventually passes on, and the sun is still there, just being what it was created to be, the sun. Or have you ever been in the ocean and a wave comes and passes right through you? That's what it's like when we sit with our emotions, seeing them, listening to them, allowing them to be there without judgment. They pass on through. One of the best ways to learn how to process emotion is to practice processing emotion. Just practice it over and over. Just like practicing the thought that we chose a couple of weeks ago, my example was parenting my child is easy. The pitfall that we have to watch out for, though, is not trying to replace our emotional work with thought work, meaning that we can trick ourselves out of processing emotions by thinking, I don't have to feel this bad thing because I just have to change my thoughts. I do want to address that we can generate emotions from past traumas that totally bypass the thought process because it's so wired into our subconscious brain. When we experience a trauma response, it's like something is happening all over again, and our brain goes straight into self-protection, where your body reacts like it's in danger, and it's not. This is an automatic response of fight, flight, or freeze. I want to add that this might be what some of our kiddos are actually experiencing. They might be going straight from fight to flight without even a thought in between. It's important to process these emotions too. It might just be better to do it with some support. What I'm talking about today is processing everyday emotions that come up because we have preconceived expectations, our child is melted down, the list goes on. Just start by feeling the emotion that's already there and open yourself up to it. The real work is staying with it until you've processed it all the way through. No one has ever taught us how to process emotions. In order to process our emotions, we have to learn how to get back into our bodies. We have to experience what our body is experiencing, and sometimes we want to bypass that with our thought work. I'm 100% guilty of this. Like, I will take a new thought every day over having to process an emotion. That's real talk. I grew up in trauma, and I was expected to disconnect from my body and not feel my emotions because having emotions was inconvenient. I want to add that not just abusive parents are inconvenienced by emotions. Most all humans feel that way. Most of the previous generations come across this way because they were told to just shove it down and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I want to pause on that for a moment and ask yourself, do you feel inconvenienced by the emotions of your child? And if you were to take it a step further, I would ask, is it possible that you feel inconvenienced by their emotions because you're actually inconvenienced by yours? To effectively process emotions, it's imperative that we get back into our bodies. While thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body. This is why it's so important to move. So, the question of the hour: what does it look like to practically process an emotion? Start by writing down everything about the emotion. Imagine that you're trying to describe this feeling to someone from another planet. Ask yourself, is it big? Is it small? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Does it feel hot or cold? If it had a color, what color would it be? Decide to open yourself up to the emotion. But don't just stop there. Follow it up by physical activity. Here's some examples: dancing, crying, exercise, jumping on a trampoline, therapeutic tapping, riding a bike, soaking in the tub, long walks, boxing, physical touch with your children, spouse, or animals, all the cuddles and hugs. The only way to fully complete a stress cycle is to get the stress out physically. What would it look like to comfort yourself like you would a child? What does that hurting child need? Do that for yourself. All the little inner version of you wants is to be seen and heard. This is the beginning of creating emotional safety for yourself. And once you begin to do this for yourself, it will be easier to do it with and for your child when they are having a hard time during a meltdown. This is what it looks like to learn how to be at peace in your own body, even when everything else around you isn't peaceful. This is how you become the calm in your child's storm. Much like the sun and the waves, there's always going to be more emotions to process in the future. So don't worry, you have plenty of opportunities to practice and grow in this area. Before we recap, I want to talk about your heavy backpack. I've mentioned this before. If we've neglected to feel and process our emotions, we carry them around like a backpack full of rocks. I like to think of it like this because it's the closest image to how it feels to carry it in our bodies. When we're emotionally stuck, we walk around feeling a very real heaviness. So we load up all of our rejections, sadness, frustration, old wounds, childhood traumas, and we carry them around with us everywhere we go. And then we wonder why it feels so hard. The good news and the bad news is that no one can dismantle this backpack for you. It's your decision. You can keep carrying it around, or you can try life without it. Getting your emotional life in order is one of the hardest things to do. It's so much easier to blame someone else than it is for us to take full responsibility for our lives. We can get so attached to our backpack full of rocks, and it becomes difficult to let go. But imagine yourself without it. Imagine how free and powerful you will feel without that heavy backpack full of things that you were never meant to carry. You can choose to carry around the weight of the world, or you can choose to let those wounds be your best teacher. Most people you know are going to insist on keeping their backpack. But what I want you to know is that you can't bring it with you to the place of joy and peace. When you refuse to let go of it, you are refusing to learn from your life. I want you to know that you are strong enough to feel any emotion. And when you decide this is true, your life will open up in ways that you can't even imagine. For a really long time, I was afraid that if I let myself fully feel my emotions, that they would overtake me. And what I'm here to say is that if you actually allow them to process through, they will not overtake you. The important reminder to remember when you start allowing these emotions to come to the surface, do it without judgment. Understand the version of you who carried that backpack for such a long time. She's a survivor. She carried it because she thought that she couldn't survive without it. I want you to have so much love and respect for that version of you. It can be so easy to beat ourselves up, and you're going to feel the urge to judge yourself, but it's important to be gracious. You did what you had to do to survive. When you recognize patterns of thinking and feeling that are not serving you, you can rewrite that story just by agreeing with the Father about who you are and how much He loves you. No matter what has happened, He can use it for your good. The emotion that accompanies something we believe to be true gathers energy until it becomes a fixed part of who we are. We have to dismantle that on purpose. When I decided to rewrite the painful story of my past and dismantle my huge backpack of emotions I carried around, I realized how much of my energy was tied up in it. When you free yourself of that, you can really start creating things in your life that you want Will you allow your life to be transformed by the renewing of your mind? Mama, tell me, how would you feel knowing that no matter what kind of day you or your child is having, you now have the power to not only decide what kind of thoughts you're going to think, you're now equipped with knowing that you can acknowledge, allow, and process all of your emotions, which continues to create more space for you to show up fully regulated to the chaos that your child is experiencing from a place of love, compassion, empathy, joy, and peace. Again, you get to be the calm in their storm. This is what it looks like to build emotional capacity. Today, let's look at some verses that shows that it's okay to have feelings and emotions. And I've talked about some of these in previous episodes, but let's just read through them. John 11:35 says Jesus wept. Even Jesus, the Son of God, expressed deep sorrow and grief. In Psalms 42:11, it says, "Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God." David honestly shared his sadness while still turning to hope. In Ecclesiastes 4:3, it says, "A time to weep and a time to laugh and a time to mourn and a time to dance." The word affirms that all emotions, joy and sorrow alike, have their place. In Mark 33:34, it says, "He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. 'My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death,' he said to him. 'Stay here and keep watch.'" Jesus openly expressed anguish in the Garden of Gethsemane, and can I tell you why I think he did that? I don't think it was because of the cross. I think it was because of the separation that he knew that was coming on the cross. In Psalms 34:18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit." The Father draws near to us in our most painful emotions. And Romans 12:15, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn." Emotions are part of our shared human experience, and the Father calls us to honor them together. When we process our emotions with the Father instead of pushing them away, he transforms what once felt heavy into something holy. The same emotions that once buried us can now become the soil where healing grows. So let's recap. Today we learned about emotions and how they're not meant to stay trapped in our body, and that like clouds passing over the sun or waves rolling through the ocean, they move when we let them. We talked about how to process emotions so that they don't pile up like rocks in a heavy backpack weighing us down. Mama, you are strong enough to feel any emotion. And when you believe that, you'll discover peace and a capacity that you didn't even know you had. Every time you process an emotion, you are lightening that backpack a little more, creating space for more peace, more connection, and more joy in your relationship with your child. So your challenge this week is when you notice an emotion, I want you to pause and I want you to describe it in detail. And I want you to ask yourself, what does this emotion feel like in my body? If it had a color, a shape, or a texture, what would it be? I would even go on to ask one more question of what lesson is God wanting to teach you through this emotion? What is the teaching point? Because I do believe that all of our emotions are here as messengers to teach us something. And then I want you to follow it up by choosing a physical action to release it. Maybe a walk, a cry, dancing, a hug with your child, some journaling. Notice the difference between resisting your emotions and letting them move through you. As you do this week, invite the Father into that moment and ask him to show you what he's wanting to teach you through that emotion, and thank him for helping you release it. If you want to go a little deeper into encouragement like this, join my Insiders list. It's where I share faith-filled reminders, emotional regulation tips, and real-life tools to help you stay anchored in who God says you are. The link is in the show notes. Hey, sweet mama, I hope you loved today's episode. Can you do me a favor? If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mama in your life who needs to know they are not alone? Also, would you leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts for me? It blesses my heart to know that this show is giving you hope in hard moments. All right, I'm off to grab some protein because love and grace flows easier when you're not just running on fumes and coffee. I'll meet you back here next week for another honest and hope-filled conversation. In the meantime, mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love.